trouble in paradise as Gavin Newsom says General Motors sold out by siding with the Republicans on the EV mandate. Or was it a flawed plan? It wasn't just General Motors. It was literally every brand. They were taking a loss, and you can't have a loss and make it up in volume, no matter what Gavin Newsom says. California has long led the charge in the push for electric vehicles, or EVs, with generous incentives and ambitious mandates driving adoption. But a sudden policy shift has left drivers and dealers reeling, as Governor Gavin Newsom has reversed his promise to replace the federal EV credit set to expire September 30th, 2025. He said he was going to fund the EV credits and that California would lead the way. Well, this decision, driven by a looming state budget deficit, could reshape the state's automotive landscape, impacting wallets, showrooms, and California's green goals. Before I tell you why this matters, here's a quick word from our video sponsor. It turns out that the key to losing weight and keeping it off is not carbs or fat or even probiotic-rich foods. The end game is having a healthy weight, more energy, and long, healthy life. And it comes down to a specific switch you can flip in your body to flush out unnecessary calories. Dr. Gundry calls this caloric bypass. He's seen thousands of people with dramatically improved health, even at the age of 50 or beyond. And this includes losing weight, getting tons more energy, and returning to the good health they had in their youth, once they simply addressed this one key to better health. Not only that, this is actually associated with improving digestion, stronger joints and muscles, smoother skin, and healthier lives, meaning it could be the key to a happy life. Dr. Stephen Gundry has lost 70 pounds himself using his research and has kept the weight off for over 20 years and counting. His digestive issues are gone, his health is fantastic, and he feels younger and healthier today than he did in his 40s. His video has been watched by over 20 million people, and you can watch and learn more about it at thehealthyfat.com/car. It's linked at the bottom of this video. He'll teach you exactly how he has kept off his weight for free at thehealthyfat.com/car. So why the reversal? Was it more than a broken promise? California's role as an EV pioneer is well established, with the federal tax credit up to $7,500 for new EV purchases serving as a key driver of the sales. When the federal government announced the credit's expiration, Newsom pledged a state-level rebate to fill the gap, reassuring consumers and automakers that California would keep the EVs accessible. It was a bold commitment to maintain the state's leadership in a fight against climate change. Well, the commitment has now been scrapped, citing a project of $68 billion budget deficit for 2025, and that's per the California Legislative Analyst's Office. Newsom's administration has opted to redirect those funds that was planned for EVs to infrastructure rather than consumer rebates. The state plans to use the revenue from its cap-and-trade program generated by auctioning carbon allowances to expand the EV charging networks. Again, more Green New Deal projects. That means higher taxes for all California residents and businesses, and this is never good. What this means is drivers are going to pay higher costs, and they're going to have some tough choices. For California drivers, the loss of the electric vehicle incentive is a significant blow, and the federal tax credit made EVs more affordable, particularly for upper class, but never really did anything for the middle and lower class households. Without it, and with no state replacement, buyers will face the full upfront costs of EVs, which can be $10,000 to $20,000 more than the comparable gas-powered vehicles. And you already know what people are going to do. They're going to keep what they have or buy gasoline-powered vehicles. Now, here's a good example. A 2025 Nissan Leaf starts at $28,140 before taxes. With the $7,500 credit, could have lowered the price down to $20,640. A critical savings for budget-conscious buyers. This change threatens to slow EV adoption, which will be the final result, in my opinion. A 2024 survey by the California New Car Dealers Association found that 65% of prospective EV buyers cited financial incentives as a major factor in their decision. Without them, Many may stick with gas-powered cars or even look at hybrids, which is a great solution, which often have lower upfront costs. This is especially concerning for many households who relied on this rebate to make electric vehicles feasible while seeking long-term fuel savings and environmental benefits. That said, the EV market is evolving. Models like the Chevrolet Bolt EV, which was $27,850, or the Hyundai Ioniq 6 at $38,650, are increasingly price competitive, and battery costs have dropped. But they're still not reasonable enough for the average person to be able to afford an electric vehicle. Again, hybrids and gasoline-powered vehicles are a better choice. Still, the absence of incentives could make EVs feel out of reach for many, potentially jeopardizing California's goal of 5 million zero-emission vehicles by 2030. I guess it's time to either change governors or change the plan. Now, dealers and automakers are bracing for this impact. This decision also shakes up California's dealerships and automakers. Dealers have invested heavily into EV training, inventory, and on-site charging stations because they had to, and they counted on these incentives to drive some sales, although sales have not been where they were hoped they would be. And without these rebates, demand could dip, particularly for pricier models like the Rivian R1T at $69,900 or the Lucid Air at $77,400. Smaller dealerships operating on slim margins may face financial pressure if EV sales falter, and it's going to impact all the electric vehicles. Automakers that are paying attention have made the shift, and that's Stellantis and Porsche and Ford and Hyundai. They see it coming and they made the shift, while others like Jaguar and a few other brands have decided to dig their heels in and say, no, it's going to be EV all the way, and this should be interesting without California's support. Automakers are equally concerned. Companies like Tesla, Ford, and Volkswagen lobbied for a state rebate to sustain California's dominance in EV sales, which accounted for about 38% of U.S. total electric vehicle sales in 2024. A sales slowdown could lead manufacturers to scale back EV production, which they already are doing, or redirect efforts to states with stronger incentives, such as Washington and New York State, of which there really isn't much incentive. New York State is offering $2,000. Some states are completely out of money, like Illinois, and so that will leave their residents without any incentives. And that means the free market reigns, which is what I'm constantly saying. There are some industry experts who see a potential upside. They think that expanding the charging infrastructure could tackle the bigger barrier of access to charging. And a 2024 Consumer Reports survey found that 48% of Americans cite limited charging options as the top reason for avoiding EVs, particularly in rural areas and underserved areas. They didn't even calculate in the cost of insurance, the higher cost, and the higher cost of electricity, especially in California. Now, if California's investment pays off, they could boost long-term demand, but that's highly doubtful. For now, though, dealers and automakers face a challenge on the road ahead because the infrastructure is not going to work over incentives. This is a strategic shift on the part of California, and Gavin Newsom's new plan hinges on strengthening EV infrastructure funded by cap and trade program. Again, more taxes, which means people can't afford the vehicles they have. He claims it'll generate approximately $3.5 billion annually, which would be great considering they're already in a negative position. The state aims to grow its network of 105,000 public charging stations, which is about 25% of the U.S. total, to 1.2 million charging stations by 2030. And this includes fast chargers along highways and urban centers, as well as level 2 chargers in residential and workplace settings. Again, I don't know how they're going to handle this because they have brownouts as it is, and there's a shortage of electricity. I don't care if you're using solar panels or wind, there still isn't enough, especially as Gavin Newsom wants to remove all of the fossil fuel programs, which includes coal and natural gas. Not very wise ideas, but we shall see how this unfolds because this focus makes sense on paper. Limited charging access is a major hurdle, especially in rural areas and low-income communities where stations are scarce, although low-income communities are not typically buying EVs. Then, of course, we have long wait lines at public charging that can also frustrate drivers. And a robust network could make EVs more practical, particularly for those without home charging. According to Gavin Newsom, the cap and trade revenue would provide a steady funding of streams for this project. We shall see, as people do leave the state on a very regular basis. However, infrastructure takes years to build, and the benefits won't materialize overnight. Meanwhile, the loss of incentives hits consumers immediately, potentially curbing EV adoption in a short term. Critics argue that Newsom's shift prioritizes long-term planning over urgent action, leaving drivers and dealers in a bind. I don't think he really cares, to be honest with you. And supporters, however, see it as a necessary step to build a sustainable EV ecosystem, potentially setting a model for other states. Most states can't afford it, and if they raise the taxes any higher, people will leave those states for other states. So the bigger picture is California's green goals are at risk, and California's climate targets are ambitious, and 100% zero emissions vehicle sales by 2035 and carbon neutrality by 2045 is out the window, and Gavin Newsom won't be in office anyhow, and the next governor will make a lot of decisions. EVs have been central to his vision, making up 21% of new car sales in 2024, according to the California Air Resources Board. But without these incentives, progress could stall. Higher upfront costs may push consumers toward gasoline-powered and hybrid vehicles, especially with California's average gas price to be $4.50 per gallon in 2050. High and very prohibitive, but maybe that was his goal to begin with, adding extra gas taxes, making it unaffordable for the average person. These incentives were critical for many buyers who face both high electric vehicle costs and limited charging access, and without them, the EV transition risks favoring wealthier drivers, widening economic disparities, and Newsom's team argues that the infrastructure investments will benefit all Californians, that's assuming you own an electric car, but the timeline and execution remain uncertain. On the other hand, the shift could spur innovation. Without subsidies propping up demand, automakers may focus on affordable, streamlined production and developing cheaper models. We shall see, because demand is where the price goes down, not low demand, but high demand. And Tesla, for instance, has teased its sub-$30,000 EV. Well, that won't be available until 2027. And market pressures could drive progress the other direction. Where policy falls short, there may not be a lot of supply. For drivers, the message is clear. Act fast if you wish to secure the current federal tax credit before it expires September 30th, 2025. And if you're watching after this time, well, they're gone and they're not coming back. And after you shop strategically, compare models, negotiate prices, check your insurance rates, explore financing options to offset these costs. The truth is, you have the one big beautiful bill if you wish to purchase a car built in the US. Otherwise, you're going to have to pay for this vehicle. And leasing an EV could also be a smart move, as some lease deals may still qualify for federal tax credits, but purchasing one is a huge mistake because people don't want used EVs, and you can look at websites like iSeeCars and see the numbers are way down. Now, dealers should prepare for a potential sales dip, but can adapt by emphasizing value. Highlighting EVs' long-term savings, well, maybe it depends on your situation, but roughly $1,500 less per year to operate than gasoline-powered vehicles, again, depending on your state, and this is all according to the Department of Energy. I'm reading their stats. Now, this could sway buyers, but partnering with utilities to offer charging discounts or home charger installations could also help. That discount goes away at the end of the year. And remember, if you put a home charger in your home, you must tell your insurance agent or you don't have coverage if something happens. And there's already quite a few cases out there that homes had caught fire and they only pay you out 80% because insurance companies look at this as an addition. Remember overall that automakers must prioritize affordability and accessibility. Streamlining production, securing cheaper battery materials all sounds great, and expanding entry-level models is probably the only way they're going to sell EVs, and this would be crucial in order to meet the mandate of California. Of course, new governor, new rules, and this should be interesting as well. This policy shift isn't just about EVs, it's about the future of transportation. Lots of changes in environmental policy, as well as lots of economic changes. And California's decision to shape the national trend may be over. Influencing car prices, well, that's about to change, as well as regulations and climate strategies. We are seeing some massive shifts. Whether you're an EV enthusiast, a skeptical driver, or a dealer navigating this shift, understanding these changes is essential no matter where you stand on this game. According to California, the road ahead is uncertain. Will infrastructure investments pave the way for a greener future in California, or will the loss of the incentive derail the progress? Make sure to put down your opinion down in the comments, because this one's going to be interesting, as anyone interested in EV has made the move. Those that have been dragging their feet, well, maybe they'll change their mind. One thing's for certain, California is not going to be all EV. There's going to be a lot of changes, not just a new governor, but with all the incentives gone, consumers will get to choose what they want. Now we need to lower the price of gasoline across the entire country, and especially in California, so that you can make the decision of what works best for you. Whether you want to keep the vehicle you have, look at a hybrid, purchase an electric vehicle, or go all gas. If you like this video, give it a like and subscribe for more videos like this, and check out our car review channel, Car Smarts. You can support me by buying me a cup of coffee, and if you want even more content, check out the links in the description. I'm Lauren Fix. Thank you so much for watching.